Are you a product manager or product leader in an organization where it feels like your roadmap is made up? It feels like things are being picked up at random and you're not quite sure on what's the next right thing to work on, or you're being told what to build rather than actually working on the right problems to solve. It probably means you don't have a product strategy, or if you do have a product strategy, it's probably not very good. I want to help you unlock that today by working out what does a great product strategy look like, take you through our product strategy template section by section so that you know exactly what goes in a product strategy. Now let's unpack a little bit first. Why is this so important? I talk to a lot of product leaders and a lot of product managers, and there's three key frustrations they share with me. Probably the biggest one is the teams are given a list of features to go and build. They're feature teams. They're told, here's the project to go and work on. You break it down into features. You don't even worry about how's this going to work in market? How do we make it successful? You're not testing things. You're not running discovery. You're just going and building things. This is classic when you don't have a product strategy. The other one is getting constant questions and having to do constant status updates to leaders. They want to know what's being worked on when and when will it be in production, because they don't have confidence in the team. They don't have confidence in you to be able to deliver the outcome. They're just not saying it. The next one is when you're releasing features into market and the customers are picking them up, it's just not moving the needle. Whether you need a higher conversion rate, higher sales, higher usage, or anything else where you're measuring solving a problem, the numbers just aren't moving. And the biggest fear that the product managers share with me at this point is that they're just going to be overruled. They're going to be told to go work on something else. And it means that the team's constantly context switching and losing faith in their ability as a product manager or leader. Now, if we can solve for that, if we can create a great strategy, we get three big wins. All of a sudden, leadership are confident in your ability. It means that there's no more second guessing, no more being told exactly what to do. The status updates are a lot lighter. We're talking more of a product review. Next, we're actually making a real impact with the numbers. We can see that we're solving customer problems. We're getting more customers, happier customers. They're staying with the product longer. They're using the features you build more. Whatever it might be, we're able to see that in the numbers because we're choosing the right things to work on. This also means that the team is super excited now. They're really pumped to be working on these things with you. Now, what this means is that all of a sudden you're able to take strategic direction in the business. And eventually, for the product leaders that I work with, they get into more influential, more important positions with the organization because they're showing off the success they're having and able to build that confidence. They're able to communicate clearly with the board and with the executive team. Here's what we're working on and why. It's a super powerful move. Now, the thing is, it's actually not that hard to create a great product strategy. There's a lot of back and forth and there's a lot of conversation, but that's actually where the magic is. There's 6 key sections that I want to share with you in this template that will help you create a really impactful product strategy that will be giving really clear decisions, helping inform what the team should be focusing on, why they're focusing on it, what problems they need to be solving, and how they need to be running their product discovery to inform what they're building. If you're moving towards the product operating model or wanting to embed continuous discovery, having a great product strategy is super important. So let's be really clear on what is a great product strategy before we get to the 6 sections. Really, all it is a clear diagnosis of the strategic opportunity you're focusing on right now. It outlines here are the key insights that we have on why we're making certain moves around the product. Those moves are going to include strategic bets we're taking. It includes the outcomes of success. How do we know that we've been successful? And it also prioritizes the user or customer needs and problems that we're trying to solve along the way, and the sequence. This is really important, the sequence in which we're addressing those problems. This then links up to your quarterly planning using objectives and key results. Now, for your product strategy to be awesome, it has to cover 6 sections. And really these 6 sections are covering 6 different questions that you need to answer that people will be wondering as you're working with them. They're also used to help you make the right strategic decisions and focus on the right things. So the 6 sections are product vision. This is not technically part of your strategy, but I like to capture it in there. Next, we want to have the customer. Who are we building this for? What problem are we solving? We want to capture the diagnosis. This goes into a bunch of detail, which I'll unpack in a moment, which is what we're choosing to work on and why. Really important. As part of the opportunity diagnosis is we want to know what strategic bets are we making. I'll unpack what a strategic bet is a little bit later in the video. Then we want to have success measures. How do we know that we're going to be successful as we execute this strategy? What are some of our long-term goals? What are our near-term goals? being really clear on the numbers we're trying to move and why. Next, we want to have our action plan. So a good strategy has a really tight action plan. We're clear on here's what we're taking and in what sequence. It's not a detailed plan. To be very clear, this isn't a Gantt chart or anything like that. This is the high level steps and strategic areas of focus that we're going to be addressing along the way and in which order. We also talk about what we're not doing as part of this. It's really powerful. Finally, as you come along and you talk to different stakeholders around the business, you're going to get lots of questions and lots of feedback. Where you see there's key elements missing from the strategy, you're going to want to update the strategy to reflect that. This is a living and shared document. It's not just yours. You don't finish it and publish it and you're done. This is something you want to take around and share. As you're getting that feedback, update the document. But sometimes there's questions or items that keep popping up that don't fit into that. This is where the FAQ comes in. Add your frequently asked questions or objections that people are sharing as you're going through your strategy. Now, let's go through the actual template, starting with the product vision. The product vision is a topic for a different video, but at a really high level, it's something that depicts how is the customer's experience different in the future as a result of your product. It could be a day in the life of, it could be like a newspaper headline, something that shows us here's what the customer experience looks like in 3 to 5 years, even up to 10 years. I'll create some examples of some really great visions in the description below. Now, we want to talk about the customer and who do we solve this for? So this is where we capture really clear statements around who the customer is, their personas, what are some of the friction points they have on a given journey. It could be a journey with us as a business, or it could be just a day in their life. And what are some of the gaps or questions that we're missing at the moment that we need to go and do some more research specifically around the customer? So we'll come up with this question again a little bit later and I'll explain where that pops in. Next, and this is the deepest section, we want to go into an opportunity diagnosis and bets. I encourage you to grab this template. The link is in the description below. Again, there's heaps down there. Go have a look at it. There's no paywall or anything like that, or no email wall. Just go in and have a look at it. If you're talking about what is a good strategy, Richard Rummelt talks about this in his book, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. It's an incredible book on strategy. I highly recommend you read it, or his latest book, The Crux. They're both fantastic and they break the strategy down into 3 key things. Number 1 is a diagnosis. And that's what we're doing here. We're understanding what is the opportunity space? What do we understand about it? What is our core insight? The thing that says, well, hey, this is something worth solving. Our hypothesis or ideas that we have around here's the nature of it. Here's why this is a thing. This is why it's relevant for us to pick it up as part of a competitive advantage. And different dynamics we need to be aware of. You can see in this template here, there's a long list of stuff. We also talk about key risks, and that's around viability, value, usability, and feasibility. We also talk about the strategic bets or choices that we're making. What are the things that we're not so sure about, but we're going to give it a go? And also, what are the things are we not doing? What are we saying? This is not part of our strategy. We're actively deciding not to do these things. Now, I talked about 3 parts to Richard Rummelt's strategy. First was diagnosis. That's what this section is all about. Later, we're going to get into something that he calls guiding policies. We talk about it being product principles. What are the guardrails that we're setting up so that empowered teams can work on the strategy? And then finally, a coherent set of actions. And that's the action plan we've got at the end. So template has all the right ingredients for being successful in your strategy. Measuring success. Now that's part of the diagnosis. How do we know that we've been successful? So sometimes we want to set a North Star metric, and one metric that we want to hit over the long term. It could be something really simple like active customers, but we could also go a lot more advanced and think about what's the vision? What are we trying to achieve? And if there's a mission behind that, we're doing that for a reason. Maybe it's around saving people time. It could be life saved if you've got healthcare software, whatever it might be. But think about that number that actually represents success for your product. That's your North Star metric. We've then got health metrics that tell us that we're doing the right things. How do we minimize downside risk? This might be things like revenue and other things that are quite boring. Maybe it's going to be customer response times to service inquiries and these kind of things. These are the numbers that we're not actually trying to hit. They're just the numbers that we don't want to break and we're going to be keeping an eye on. Lastly, we've got our annual OKRs. And again, this is a living document. I like to capture, here's my goals for the year on this strategy. It's not the goals for the entire strategy, because that's what your North Star metric is, but it's going to be what outcome am I trying to create this year? As I get towards the end of the year, I'm going to review this strategy. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. We should have made a bunch of progress on the action plan so I can start putting things into what we've done. But then I also capture, here's what our goal is for the year ahead. and that is focused on solving a specific customer problem. Okay, here we are. Number 5, the action plan. This is the second last one, probably one of the more important ones. The reason I say that is the strategic diagnosis is super important, but I'd rather you get started on this than be perfect. Too many teams I see get stuck on the diagnosis and they spend months and years trying to work on that without actually making any progress. Have a bias for action. Get started, map out your plan here. Even if there's lots of questions and holes in it, we can fill those gaps in. So the action plan talks about some of the research objectives. That's here because as we're going along, we need to answer lots of questions. Product principles, these are going to be the guardrails that we follow to make sure that as we're running our discovery and building the product, we're focusing on the right things. Now, those guardrails might mean that we're focusing on mobile first. It might be that we're doing mobile only. It might be that we're focusing on a particular customer type at a particular stage in their life. It might be valuing experience higher than functionality. It might be about moving fast and breaking things rather than trying to be super slow, super perfect, and super stable. These things are all trade-offs, and your conversations around the principles you're following are actively making decisions around those trade-offs. And you've got to be comfortable with those trade-offs that you're making. Those are all reflected here. If you get those principles right, the teams are empowered to go and work on discovery and build features, and we don't need to tell them the specific features to build. They are solving the problems. We know that the teams are working in the right way and solving the right problems because those guardrails are in place and they're not going to veer off course. Next is the discovery approach, and this is how I like to structure my roadmaps. Now, next, and later. What are the things that we think we need to pick up first? What are we focusing on right now? What's going to come up next? That could be next quarter, and now is this quarter. Later is everything else that's beyond that. Why don't I put dates on this? Because there is so much variability and things can change. And as we learn, we might change things. Now, it talks about discovery, but you need to be moving right into delivery as well. Don't make the mistake of going, I'm just going to go do discovery for 6 months. You need to go and understand the customer's problem. You need to be solving that in a small way with a bit of software. You might test it before actually building it using a prototype, but you want to get that out into production. Ideally, do it within weeks. Now, of course, we need to be contextually aware of everything else that is happening in the business. And so these are some things I like to call out in my strategy, just as a bit of an extra nice to have that's going to help us make the right decisions and make sure that we're executing in the right way. So first and foremost is change management and influence. How do we need to go through change as part of this? Sometimes you're introducing a radically new idea and you're going to need the support of different people or different organizations or marketing or whatever it might be to be successful. So think about who is that stakeholder group. It could be simple as working closely with the support team that's going to be taking first line inquiries that come in through the door related to any product changes you're making, or it might be working with government and driving policy changes. That is going to be very dependent on the product you're building. Next, we need to have the capabilities needed. Now, these are things like DevOps. They might be management capabilities. They might be new processes or structures that you need in the organization. What things do we need to have built into the organization to be able to deliver and support this product? It might be within just the engineering team and the frameworks they're building in terms of deployment infrastructure and those sort of things. Or again, it might be entirely new service departments and these kind of things, depending on the product. Think about that capability you need. Finally, pricing models. This is one that often gets overlooked, or we just assume it's all part of building an existing product. Think about, is there any change we're making to the pricing model we have? Are we adjusting prices? Are we charging for this? What does this look like? And this can be one that might just be part of an existing product and it doesn't need its own section. If it's just going to be part of the product, it's not a new feature that's going to be charged or paid for, you can leave it out. You can probably mention that somewhere in the strategy is always a good idea. But if this is part of a broader product suite and this strategy is just linked to one product and we're keeping the existing pricing models, you might not need that here. But again, most products will probably have a pricing strategy somewhere. And if this is the product strategy, it should be in there. Okay, so here's the FAQ. And I said earlier, this is totally underplayed. I don't think people work with this very well. They need to be front of mind with the FAQ. This is where you capture anything that doesn't fit into the strategy earlier, anything else that seems unclear or unknown. Now, this sounds like an easy one, but this is critical to the success of this document. You really want to make sure you nail this and get it right the first time. Now, a lot of this strategy is actually inspired by Amazon working backwards. They have documents where they capture any sort of product strategy or any particular piece of work that they're working on. And one of the things they always include is an FAQ. So this is actually super important. When I get to it, I'm going to unpack it. It's a lot more than just frequently asked questions. And it is super impactful when you're taking this strategy to executives, leaders, and different stakeholders around the business. But I'll get to that towards the end of the video. This is where you might capture objections. So my advice is go through the strategy, do a quick draft, fill it out as best you can, and quickly, I'm talking within days, take it around to stakeholders, get feedback. As you're getting feedback, adjust the strategy, fill in the blanks, capture where they've got questions that need to be filled in as part of the strategy. But if it feels like something doesn't fit, then add it to the FAQ. This is the game changer though. If you get objections, well, I don't like this strategy because blah, or I think it needs to be doing this, note those down. And if you hear those comments enough, address those objections in the FAQ so that we know we are capturing these answers. As you work with other people, new stakeholders, you know it's probably coming. And so you can actually front load that conversation at the start. Hey, I want you to stick with me to the end here. We're going to address some of these things. All of a sudden, the objections melt away. They know it's coming at the end. So I've mentioned OKRs a couple of times. One thing I love to do here is I use these problem statements to inform what my OKR should be. Now, this product strategy template is based on my past 22 years working in technology. And it's also inspired by the Amazon working backwards approach, which talks about a 6-page document with an FAQ in it. So I'm really curious. Well, I hear this from the product managers and product leaders and executives I'm working with, but I'm curious, do you have the same pains? Let me know in the comments if you've hit the same things or it's something different. So that's a wrap, team. That is how to write an incredible product strategy and the key elements in it. If you want the template, again, it's in the comments below. I do respond to every comment that we get. Otherwise, have an amazing rest of your day and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.